This video is over Unit 3, Lesson 18 on velocity. So here we are in Canvas. Go ahead and click the overview page. And from here, it goes over your learning goals that you're going to learn to use the velocity and rotation speed code blocks to create and change sprite movements. So then you would read through the rest of that. Remember, you got to do all the read, do the lesson, and then go into code.org and do the assignment. So you'd click next to go into the lesson. And here are some new code blocks that you're going to learn. Rotation speed and velocity x and velocity y. Watch the video on velocity. As you watch that video, think about these questions. Why might you want to use a velocity block instead of the counter pattern? They're going to show you that in the video. What is an example of something that uses the counter pattern that could be used with the velocity block instead? So think about those two questions as you watch this video. After you've watched it, then click next to go to the next page. From here, here's another lesson page that shows how the velocity x and velocity y blocks are used in creating or replacing that counter pattern. Okay, so you need to read through here, and you can see that we have movement, how you move sprites using the counter pattern like we have been using. And then here's the example of, instead of using the counter pattern, like here it says hippo x equals hippo x plus 2. There's two counter patterns, 4 counter patterns used right there. Instead, we can use velocity y and velocity x to replace all of this, and it makes it easier for you to program. Right, so once you read through that and you can see how that velocity x and velocity y are used instead of the counter pattern, then click next to move to the next page. And now you're on the assignment page. So click velocity to open the assignment document. And you would want to make a copy. The same handout we've always been using the entire time we've been in Unit 3. So there's a lot of skill building that you need to do here, lots of levels, practice, assessment, and then some challenge. From this point, we're going to go to code.org. Here we are in code.org on Lesson 18, Velocity at Level 1. This is the beginning of your skill building exercises. So this is that's going to show you in Level 1 how to use velocity x. So you need to read through all the information here, where it says one way to move sprites in GameLab is to use the counter pattern, which we learned about several lessons ago. And so the counter pattern normally looks like this: sprite.x equals sprite.x plus 1, which moves a sprite by 1 pixel each frame of your draw loop. So this pattern is so common that they actually wrote another code to replace it, and that code is called velocity x. So it makes it simpler now for you to code versus having to write that counter pattern over and over again, because it's a very common code that we use in the draw loop. So it has the do list. Drag a sprite.velocity x block directly below where your sprite is created. And you can just click show me where and it'll show you. Make sure you write the name of the sprite in the block, assign the value of 1, and then run the code. And what happens? Okay, when you're done with that and it works, then you would click that share button, get your link, and then paste that link right here into your assignment. And then you would go to Level 2. Level 2 is the video that we watched in Canvas. So if you don't remember how velocity works and that velocity block and the counter pattern, then re-watch this video. When you're done with that, then go to Level 3. And on Level 3, this is moving down. So if we click run, there's a feather sprite that should be floating down the screen. If velocity x makes a sprite move to the right, can you find the block that will move the feather down? So we're running this. Nothing happens to the feather. says do this. Find the block that will make the feather sprite go down the screen. Use it outside of your draw loop. And then just click Show Me Where, and it'll show you where to place it. Okay, so which one of these blocks are you going to use? If velocity X makes it move to the right and left, then the opposite makes it go up and down. So when you figure out which block to use and where to place it, then go ahead and click Share, get your link, and paste it into the assignment page. And then go to level 4. On level 4, this is rotation speed. So you can also use rotation speed. So you can see here now you have another tool in your Sprites toolbox, sprite.rotation speed. If you want to rotate your sun, so it says let's run this because it creates a sun, it sets an animation. It says if you want to rotate the sun by 2 degrees, each time it's drawn, you can use sun.rotation speed equals 2 before the draw loop after you create the sprite. So just follow the directions here, make the sun rotate by 3 degrees each time using the rotation speed block. And then just click Show Me Where, and it tells you where to put it, where to put that block. Okay, so once you figure that out, and what it should be is that sun should be rotating to the right. And then you know that you've completed that activity. So once you figure out how to place that block and how to get that working, then you would click the Share button and then paste that into the assignment, that link. Then go to level 5. So on this one here, you have, you're going to learn about controlling speed. So now you have another block here that says rotation speed. And again, this is outside of the draw loop. You don't put it in the draw loop. And it says you can also, I said that wrong, you can also use rotation speed inside the draw loop to change the speed of a sprite during the game. For example, a sprite can start rotating when the user presses the spacebar, and it will keep rotating until it's told to stop. So it says look at the if statement inside the draw loop that checks whether the spacebar has been pressed. You can click Show Me Where. Use the rotation block to make the color wheel start spinning when the user presses the spacebar. Right? So you're going to add a code over here over into this spot. When you've got, and so when it works, when you press the spacebar down, that pinwheel should rotate to the right. Once you've got that code over there and it's working where it's rotating when you push down the spacebar, then you can go ahead and click your Share button up here, copy your link, and then paste it into your assignment. Then you would go to level 6. In level 6, this is changing velocity with position. Okay, so again, this is just like answering a question. So I'm going to click and drag so I can see the place where I put my answer. So this is getting you to think about looking at that code and seeing what's happening. So it says one advantage to using velocity blocks inside of conditionals, in other words, the if statement, is that your sprites keep moving even after the condition stops being true. For example, you only had to press a key once to start the color wheel spinning on the last level, and it kept spinning forever. The code below uses if statements to make a fish sprite move in different directions. So it wants you to look at the if statements that check the sprite's position and set its velocity. And then think about what you think the code will do, and then type in your answer below. So it wants you to look at the if statements. So here's 2 if statements. And just read through these top to bottom. You're going to go from line 8 down to line 15. So top down. So fish X, if its position is less than 0, set the animation to this and make it go that fast. Okay, in the X, make its velocity X be 2. But if the fish's position, here's the other one, if the X position of the fish is greater than 400, then choose a different animation and make it go in a different direction. So think about that code. What do you think is going to happen? So you would type your answer in here, And then once you type it into that box, then you can click the run to see if your answer is right. Then go on to level 7. Now on level 7, this is called back and forth. So let's run this. So you got this soccer ball, and when it hits down at the bottom, it bounces off and goes the opposite direction. But when it gets back to the top of the screen, it just keeps going. So we need to figure out, or you need to figure out, how to make it bounce back when it hits the top of the screen. So we just ran the code. We can run it again to see how it works. And then look at the conditional. So the conditional is the if statement. Okay, and so if this is this if statement, that's the ball going down. How are you going to get that ball to go back in the opposite direction? So you got to think about that. So obviously, you're going to add another if statement. And you've got to probably show the grid so you can determine if this says ball, if the ball's y position is greater than 380. All right, so when I put my mouse here, I can say, oh, okay, so y equals 380 is about there. And I actually want it to be up here. Okay, I want to almost copy that if statement, but do the opposite for the top. All right, so if I look at that and I look at where my mouse is, it's around 20. All right, instead of that 380. So there's a lot of, you're going to duplicate probably this if statement and then just change it a little bit to be at the top versus at the bottom. Okay, you're also going to make some other changes to the velocity y. So once you figure that out and it's working so that the ball, as the ball goes down, that ball should hit down below, and then when it gets up to the top right there, it should actually bounce off and go back down again. So when you get that happening, where it doesn't bounce off the screen, where it keeps going up and down, then you're finished that project is done, that activity level. You'd click the share button, get your link, and paste it into your assignment. Then you'd go to level 8. So here you're going to do one. You choose one of the following. Controlling speed, where you're going to make the robot fly once the space bar has been pressed at least once. Okay, and so you've done an activity. This has to do with velocity x and velocity y. Or you can choose to do the paintbrush. Dip the paintbrush in the paint. Again, you're moving the paintbrush with velocity x or velocity y. So you're going to choose one of these, complete those projects, and then when you're completed, so if I chose controlling speed, when I complete that and I've got that where the flybot is moving when the space bar is pressed, then I would click the share link and get my link and then paste it into my assignment. So it's totally up to you which one you want to do in level 8. Then go to level 9. And this is called swim right and left. This is your assessment. So it says the code below. So it already starts out the code for you. As you can see, it put the if statements in there. The code below should make the fish start moving once you press the right arrow. And then it should continually swim back and forth, left to right. And it says you should use conditional statements, which is the if statement, and the velocity block to make the fish swim. So if I run this, my fish is just there. If I press my right arrow, nothing happens. And the reason being is because there's nothing in the code here in your workspace. So it says do this. Look at the 3 if statements. So there's 1, 2, 3 if statements. Use a sprite.velocity x block inside each if statement to make the 3 following movements. If the user presses the right arrow key, move the fish to the right. If the fish gets to the right-hand side of the screen, move the fish to the left. If the fish gets to the left-hand side of the screen, move the fish to the right. So you need to figure out what you're putting in here. If you're going to use velocity x, and that's what it says, use the velocity x button or code block, and you're going to put those within each if statement, and then you got to figure out what number you're going to put there to make it go left or make it go right, whether it's negative or positive. So once you got that figured out and the fish is swimming back and forth continuously, when you push that right key down, it just keeps going right, left, then click your share button, get the link, and then paste it into your assignment and go to level 10, which is the challenges. So everybody's going to choose changing course. You cannot do free play. So changing course, this one, you can see what you're trying to do is get the alien to continuously go around. So when I run this, I see the aliens moving up, and then the alien just keeps going off the page. This one, again, they've already set it up with the 4 if statements. You have to figure out what you're going to put inside each of these if statements. Now I'm going to give you a tip here. You're going to use velocity x and velocity y within each if statement. That's my tip to you. So you're going to use both codes in each if statement. And then you're going to have to figure out what numbers you're going to put in there. So just remember, positive, you got to remember which way, like negative, if you're going x, negative number moves that character to the left or that sprite to the left. A positive moves that sprite to the right. If it's a, and then what is positive going up and what is negative going down on the y? Which way is that? Okay. And you also got to realize that you can also use 0. So what happens when I put velocity x equals 0? What happens if I put velocity y equals 0? What does that sprite do? So think about that. Okay, once you've got that figured out and you've got your alien going around the block, then click the share button and copy your link and paste it into your assignment. And that is it for lesson 18. Good luck.